Well, I've read some older books this time, and they have been very hit or miss for me, and unfortunately this one kind of fell on the miss side. Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video we're going to be talking about Swords Against Death by Fritz, Leiber, and this is technically book 2 of Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser, although I have been told by pretty much everyone you're supposed to start with this one before you read the other one, which is Swords and Deviltry. I had to try and remember. Apparently that's like the origins of the characters, but reading Swords Against Death first is supposed to, I guess, give you a better experience, and then you go back and read the origin, but I just did not really have a great time with this. This is a really short book. It is like just barely 200 pages, and I still found myself kind of just dragging a bit. And I think, for me, honestly, a lot of that has to do with the style, and this just kind of having that feel you get sometimes with way older type of fantasy. And this, I don't know exactly which short stories, but I think these collections had stories from like the 40s, 50s, 60s, and then like this actual version was first published in I think 1970 or something like that. So it is definitely older, and it definitely feels it. And it's what we're doing here is we have basically it's a collection of short stories, and it's these two characters. It's sort of in order, sort of not really, but they just kind of go off on random adventures, and they're like the best of friends. And so I know I've heard people talk about too, this is like a big inspiration, or this was like a precursor to a lot of those types of things in fantasy. And this is one of those times that like I can understand that and see why people, you know, appreciate it. But I didn't really feel like the characters had a lot of depth here. They felt very shallow, and so I didn't really care much about them. There were also several stories that barely focused on them, or focused on like one or the other. So the fact that it's supposed to be, you know, Fafhrd and Grey Mouser and these two going off and having great, you know, shenanigans and stuff together, and like it's specifically them together, also just didn't land super well, because that was kind of the way that it went. So I just this wasn't terrible by any means. I didn't really get a lot out of it, I guess is what I would say. And the other thing is, it felt like, at least at points, and like in the first story, it felt like I wasn't sure if it was supposed to be playing for humor or not, because it felt kind of like, you know, if you took Pratchett but took away the humor, just kind of the odd writing without any of the humor in it is sort of what the opening felt like to me. And so from there, I'm like, eesh, I'm not sure how I'm going to feel about this, because it just didn't really land. And like this opens with the characters who have apparently just lost their loves, and they're both just going on about how much they are sad, and that they're never going to go back to the city of Lankhmar, which is like what the whole series is based around, like Lankhmar for the most part too. So figure that's probably not going to stick, and doesn't. But they're just kind of going around talking about how sad they are and how they're never coming back, and then they randomly meet creatures, and then it'll just say, and that was how they met this creature, and then we're just done, and then we move on to the next thing. Not all the stories were like that. That was just the first one, but I'm just like, what is happening here? And so I struggled with this, and I think this is just one of those ones where it's, for me, it's the style is not something that meshes well. I know when you get into some of the older stuff like that, it does tend to be pretty hit or miss, but this just, I'm appreciative of things that this inspired, because I know this was like, Fritz Leiber was absolutely huge in sci-fi and fantasy, and specifically in sword and sorcery. And so like things I thought about too actually is Lord of a Shattered Land by Howard Andrew Jones, or just, you know, the Hanevar Chronicles in general. Sword and sorcery, it's very episodic. It, you know, has that feel of just characters going around, and especially in the first book, you had a lot of going and seeing different things. So I can absolutely see the inspiration that he took, and I know he's a fan of this as well. But for me, that's just done so much better than I was feeling that this book was. And I know it's a different style. It's meant to just kind of be pulpy and just things happen quick and going like that. But I didn't feel like there was any real depth to the characters or to the world. And so I just didn't really care a whole lot. And it's just the writing style as well just kind of pulled me out of it. And some of them I feel like, you know, weren't, like I said, I had varying. Some of the stories I definitely like better than others, but I just felt like I didn't really get any of what I was expecting. And it just was so hit or miss for me that I overall just did not have a really great time with it. So I'm sure there are going to be people who love this and are watching this and really disagree. And I understand it. Like I said, I'm not saying this is bad. I think this is just very much a product of its time, and it's something that, you know, for me, from a modern lens, it's not really giving me anything that I want here. Where I want a little bit more from the characters, from the world, from what's happening, and I'm just not quite getting it. And so between those things and just the writing style, it just did not really work out for me. So this is going to be kind of a short review. It's a shorter book, but that's just where unfortunately this one really wasn't for me. I still would try some other stuff that this author's written. I don't think I would continue read any of the other books in this particular series, just because I feel pretty definitively after this that it's not going to be for me. But I still, you know, I am, I have always been and will be somebody, I like trying out different things, older things, foundational stuff in fantasy, especially, and some with sci-fi as well. So I'll keep trying stuff like this. Not all of it's going to work, but I still, I'm glad that I finally actually got to this, because I've been meaning to for quite some time. So that's it. Those are really my thoughts on this. Let me know you agree, disagree with anything that I said. If you've read this, if you've had that similar experience with sometimes when you get stuff that's a bit older where it just feels like it's a style that doesn't mesh with you, or, you know, do you really enjoy that? And I think everything that I said is totally wrong, because that's okay too. Like I said, I know there's going to be differing opinions here, but love to hear from you. Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a like. Check the link in the description, as always, for the Wizard of the Enclave Discord if you want to chat books, whether this book, other books, really anything at all. It's a lot of fun. We'd love to have you. And of course, if you enjoy my content, make sure to subscribe.